Hello everyone, myself Dr. Jyoti Mandala. Welcome you all to the video lecture series on operating systems. So from this lecture onwards, we are going to learn a new course, operating systems. So this is the first lecture. So in this lecture, we will be learning the introduction to operating system. As part of this lecture, we will be learning about what actually an operating system is, and we will be highlighting the definition of the operating system. We will just highlight some examples of the operating systems, and then we'll see what are all the basic computer system components and what type of operating system operations are there, and we will conclude with the operating system services. I hope these video lectures of operating system will be helpful for you. So let us start with the first lecture. Okay, so let us see the first thing, what actually an operating system is. What is an operating system? So as a shortcut, I'll be representing that one as OS. So what actually an operating system is? You might be already knowing, like you might have been already using some gadgets. Okay, so any gadget, any electronic gadget, whatever you are using, either it can be a computer system or your mobile phone, whatever it can be, it will be working based on the operating system only. It should have the operating system. So without the operating system, you cannot work with your gadget. I hope indirectly you will be knowing about this operating system. Now what actually this one? That means every gadget, each and every gadget, whatever you are using, it requires the operating system to make it work. Right. So what is this operating system is? Actually operating system is nothing but it is a program. You all might be knowing about what actually a program is. Program is nothing but a set of instructions. We will be writing some set of instructions to perform some task, isn't it or not? So if we are developing that one, it is called as we are writing our own task to be performed. Similarly, operating system is nothing but it is having its own task where it has been developed by someone, right? Developed by someone is nothing but they have written some set of instructions, and those set of instructions are called as program. It is nothing but indirectly we can say operating system is nothing but it is a software. Like software is nothing but set of programs. A group of collective programs are combined together and it is named as a software. Isn't it not? So we can say operating system as a software. Generally we have two types of softwares as a basic thing. Two types of softwares are we have like application software. First one is application software, and then we have system software. Okay, now what is the difference between these two types of softwares and under which category this operating system software come? Okay, application software is nothing but a software which will be used, like it will be running independently, where this has been developed to satisfy the user needs. Whereas system software is nothing but it is designated to manage, or it is used by the operating system, or where some set of instructions are already written in that, and by using that it will be satisfying the user needs. Okay, so if in detail I'll be highlighting here the differences between the application software and the system software. Make a note all of you, application software and system software. So these are all the differences between the application software and the system software. So understand clearly all of you. So system software is nothing but where it is a kind of software in which the interface between the application software, whatever is developed by the user, and the computer. Like you can consider your operating system. It is one type of system software, where I already told you what is application software. Application software is nothing but it has been developed specifically where it satisfies the user requirements and it runs accordingly to the user. Okay, now the system softwares are generally written in low level languages, whereas your application softwares are written in high level languages like your Java programming language, Python programming language, like that. Okay, so it is the system software, if you take, it is used to operate your computer hardware. Like you will be having your own computer hardware. Hardware is nothing but your input devices, output devices, right? So if you want to make them operate, that operation will, the software that is required to make them operate are referred to as system software. Okay, whereas coming to the application software, it is used to perform a specific task which satisfy the user requirements. Okay, and whenever you are talking about the system software, no need of user interaction is required. But whereas coming to the application software, it requires the user interaction at each and every point. Okay, now coming to the system software, it has to be installed into the computer where it will allow us to work with the computer. Okay, whereas coming to the application software, depending upon the user requirement, that particular software has to be installed. Right, some examples I'll tell you. Like if you want to work with Microsoft Office documents like MS Word, if you want to work with MS Word, then its related software has to be installed. That comes under your application software. Okay, whereas coming to your compilers, debuggers, whatever softwares are there, those are considered as your system software. So here some examples are highlighted here. You can make a note of that. So now we can say operating system is a software which comes under a category of system software. I hope you all are clear with this concept what actual operating system is. Okay, now with this information we can define what actual an operating system is. So generally operating system, why we need to have in our computer system is it will allow the hardware components that can be used by the user. So we can say an operating system is an interface between the user of the computer and the computer hardware whatever we have. So just let us note down the definition of the computer, definition of the operating system. Note down all of you. Operating system is an interface between the computer hardware, between the computer user and computer hardware. So this is the general definition that will be visible in whatever textbook you will be referring. It is nothing but if a user wants to use a computer hardware, the intermediate person or the interface that will be helping us, the user, to use the computer is the operating system, which is a software, which is a system software which has to be installed into our computer. Okay, that means you can understand here. If you take, let us consider this is the hardware. Okay, let us consider this is the hardware, and let us consider we have a user. Okay, now the in between the user and the hardware we will be having we'll have the operating system. This acts as a mediator between these two. Okay. So OS acts as a mediator between the user of the computer and the computer hardware. So this again, this is a software. Okay, this is a system software, which is nothing but a particular program is already there and which is loaded at the time of booting your computer. That will be loaded automatically where our involvement is not required. It will be done automatically and it will keep the hardware ready to be used by the user. Alright, now with this definition of the computer, let us see some examples of the operating system. You might have used the operating system in your computer, you might have installed operating system in your computer, you might have some operating system in your mobile devices. So let us highlight some examples of the operating system. Okay, so keep heading all of you, examples of operating system. So under these examples, let us see some system operating system, like in computer system, what type of operating systems can be available, and if you consider your mobile devices, then in that whatever operating systems are available. I know you might have already know these names, so let us see once again. So if you take your computer system, so let me highlight first the system operating systems. So in computer, what type of operating system Can you recollect, all of you, what is the operating system that you have in your computer? Mostly like 70 to 80% people, they might be using this. What is this? Microsoft Windows. Okay. We have other operating systems also, like Linux operating system, and we have Apple Mac operating system. Okay, so these are some of the examples of the operating systems which are there, which can be installed into our computer. Other than this computer operating system, we have mobile operating systems also. So you might be using your mobile phone. So some examples of that is Android operating system. Other examples are like if you are using Apple phone, then you will be having Apple iOS, right? Other than that, we can have Windows mobile operating system also is there, isn't it or not? So these are some of the examples. You can have Blueberry operating system. Okay, so these are some of the examples of the mobile operating system. So whatever that may be, it can be a system operating system or a mobile operating system. The main advantage of using the operating system is it will allow the user to work with the computer hardware. So in total we can say like computer operating system or mobile operating system, whatever it can be, it acts as an interface between the computer user and the computer hardware. Alright, so this is about the definition and the examples of the computer. Now before proceeding about what actually an operating system is, that what is the role of operating system and what are all the operations that can be performed with the operating system and what are the services that are provided with the operating system, let us see the computer system components first. Okay, so keep your heading all of you, computer system components. So what is nothing but computer system components? Computer system components is nothing but like you all know your computer system is a set of resources. So many resources are there. Resources, okay, and operating system is responsible for allocating these or managing these resources. So resources is nothing but your input devices, your CPU, your memory. All these comes under resources. Okay. Now, what is the use of this operating system? Is this operating system is responsible for managing these resources. Okay, so you can make a note of that one also. Operating system. So what is the use of this one? Operating system is responsible for managing the resources. I'll list out what are all the resources, and these resources are collectively called as components. Okay, so we have different components available in our computer. First component is hardware components. Okay, hardware components are nothing but your CPU, your memory, your input output devices. Okay, all these are your hardware components. These are also resources. Okay, so if any task if you are performing and that task requires the CPU, so whenever the task requires the CPU, it is the responsibility of the operating system to assign that CPU to that process. Okay, to that task. So that is the responsibility of the operating system. So this is the first thing. Okay, second component we have is operating system, obviously. So a second component of the computer is operating system, which will be helpful in managing these resources and which will be helpful in assigning the things to the users or the applications whatever we have. And the third computer system component is application program. Now what is this application programs? Application programs is nothing but your word processor or your spreadsheets, whatever you are using, no, those are called your application programs. And the next one we have is users. Okay, now what is the use of this operating system now? We can say the operating system will allow or it acts as an intermediate between the user and the application programs and the hardware. Okay, now you might be thinking like user is nothing but we the human beings are the users. It is not the case always. Okay, it is not like only the developer or the people who are interacting with the computer is the users, we the human beings. No, it can be any machine or it can be another computer also. So we can have other computers which can be communicating with the computer. They can also be called as a user, or it can be any other machine also which can be connected to your computer, where it will be working with the computer, interacting with the computer. That can be also called as a user. So user in this case, it is nothing but it can be a human being, it can be another computer, it can be another machine also. Okay, now this user, if it wants to use this hardware, then that can be done, or that means this user, if they want to use any hardware component, or the application program, if they want to use any hardware component, then the operating system will come into the picture and it will act accordingly. It will provide the resources. Got it, all of you? Understood? So these are all your system components. Now let us see what are all the operating system operations we have. Okay, so keep adding all of you operating system operations. OS operations. Now, as of now, you all are understood, you all are clear with what actual an operating system is and what is the requirement of installing the operating system into a computer and all. Okay, that means we have understood, like if no processes is executing, that means nothing is there in your computer and no device is working, no device requests anything, then the operating system will be idle and it is simply sitting quietly without doing anything. But if anything wants anything, then it has to request the operating system first, then the operating system will act accordingly and it will provide the resources for that one. Got it? Now what happens is you will be having then I have already told you, like operating system is also nothing but a software. Now that software also requires some resources to be done for its tasks to be done, isn't it or not? That means user applications also requires the resources and operating system software also requires the resources. That means whenever the user wants something, operating system has to do their work also and operating system has to take care of itself also, like whenever it requires some resources. Got it, all of you? I hope you all are following that one. Now in this case, whenever there is a problem, we need to make sure, like whenever there is an error in the user program, it should not it should not affect the operating system software. We have to make sure of that one. So in this case, we have two modes of operation, like we have two different ways. First one is dual mode operation. What is this dual mode operation is? Using this dual mode operation, we will be having, like let us consider you have your resources. Now these resources are shared among the operating system software and the user applications also, isn't it or not? In that case, you need to have an accountability of saying like which resource is under which control. So to make that one, that means in dual mode you will be having two modes. One is called as user mode and the other one is called as a kernel mode. Okay, now what is this use of these modes is, we will be allocating for each and every device, a mode bit. For every device is nothing but for every resource, you can say. Okay, so for every hardware component, this mode bit is assigned. So what is the necessity of having this mode bit? This mode bit will be 1 for if it is under the user control, it will be 0 if it will be under the kernel control. Okay, not general, sorry, kernel control. Kernel is nothing but operating system. Okay, now if the hardware component, if you take your CPU, if it is under the control of user, if the user is using that CPU, then the mode bit for that one will be 1. Suppose if it is under the control of operating system, the mode bit will be 0. So to distinguish between which task is using that resource, we can make sure like the operation can be made clear, like by using this mode bit. But sometimes you see, whenever we are developing as a user, if you are developing an application and we want some resources, I told you like the operating system has to assign the resource. In that case, what happens is, in that case, the mode bit will be changed to 0 and then it will be again converted to 1. I'll show you with a simple diagram. You can see here. Okay, here itself you can see the user is executing a program. Okay, now while executing this program, it wants the operating system to perform something. Now whenever you are requesting, whenever user process requests something for the operating system to take care, and that request is sent by through system calls. In the future classes we will be learning what actually system call is. Okay, now you need to, as of now you need to understand is nothing but system call is nothing but whenever we are requesting the operating system to take care of something, then the user can send a system call to the operating system. Now when the system call is sent, then the mode bit will be converted to 0. Why? Because now the resources are under the control, whatever resource is there, no, that is under the control of kernel. So we need to convert that mode bit to 0. As of now it will be 1 only if it is under the user. Right. Now once the system call is executed, like whatever the request is sent by the user and it is done by the operating system, again the mode bit will be converted to 1 and it will be returned to the user process. This is what actually done. This is the user process mode and this is the kernel process mode. Throughout this process, the user mode bit will be 1 and throughout this process the mode bit will be 0. Okay, so this is how the operations can be done. Now during this operating system operations time, what happens is, I think I have erased that. Let me write down that once again. OS operations. Okay. In this, we understood like the first mode is dual mode. Now here there is a problem. What is the problem is, suppose the one resource is under the control of user mode. Now it is never releasing that resource and the user mode is never requesting for requesting the operating system to do something also. That means it has got stuck in the infinite mode. Then the resource will never be coming under the control of kernel mode. Are you understanding? So, to prevent the user program from getting stuck in an infinity loop or not calling the system services, in that case, what we can do? To prevent from that, what we can do is, we can have a second type. What is that second type is? We can have a timer. Now, what is this use of this timer is? Oh, sorry. What is the use of this timer is, specific time is allotted for the user mode and the kernel mode. If that time is allotted as considered 5 minutes, as an example I am telling, 5 minutes is assigned, then the user mode will be using that resource for 5 minutes and then it will be assigned to the kernel mode. That in that way we can prevent it, the resources being struck by one mode. Got it all of you? So this is how the operating system operations will be working. We'll have a dual mode, we'll have a kernel mode. Accordingly, whatever we want, we can use. Got it? So now let us see what are all the operating system services we have. Okay. So before that, under this computer system components, I just want to show you this diagram. All of you, you can see here we will be having multiple users here. I have already told you one of the component of computer system is a user. So under this user, you can see user is nothing but people or other computers or any machine also. It is not like only it will be a user like we human beings, so that may not be the case always. Okay, it can be anything. Alright, now the user wants to use the hardware. Now whenever the user wants to use the hardware, normally the user will be communicating through the operating system and we have application programs also. If you see the database systems, text editor is your application program, compiler, assembler is your system programs. Okay, now through this which is a part of your operating system will have a operating system also which is a part of your system software. The user can communicate with your computer hardware. Got it? I hope you all are clear. Now let us see what are all the different operating system services we have. Keep you adding all of you operating system services. OS services. Let me first highlight what are all the services that are provided by the operating system. Okay, and then we'll see one by one. The first service that will be provided by the operating, that like there is no order in the services, randomly these are all the services provided. Okay, so the first one is, we can say, program execution. Second one, just let us highlight all the things, we'll see one by one. IO operations, and third one is file system management. Okay, and next one is communication. Next one is error detection. Next is resource allocation. We can have one more, accountability. Okay, last one is protection and security. Okay, so these are all the operating system services we have. What are they? We'll see one by one. Program execution. Now, what is this program execution is? Suppose when we all know what are all the programs that are developed as users, those programs will be stored in your computer memory, which is a hard disk, isn't it or not? Whenever you are saving any program, that will be stored in your computer hard disk, isn't it or not? Now, but whenever you want to execute that program, the operating system, what it will do is, it will get that program from the hard drive to your main memory. Why? Because whenever a CPU executing anything, that has to be available in your main memory. Got it? Now, program execution is nothing but to make your program available in the operating, like whenever you want to execute any program, the operating system will bring that program from the main memory. So here I'll write down that, I'll note down that. So what is the use of this program execution? It will bring that program, whatever you want to execute, from the hard disk to main memory. Okay, so here the copying of the program from the main memory to hard disk will be done by the operating system. Why it has to be copied to the main memory? Because the CPU can, whenever it is executing anything, no, that program should be available in the main memory. Okay, this is the one service that is provided. Next, IO devices or IO operations. Like means, if you want to use any input device or output devices, it really to activate that hardware, like your input devices and output device, like your keyboard or any output device, whatever you want to use, no, to activate that hardware, its related file has to be connected, isn't it or not? So operating system will help us in doing that. Got it? So operating system, like if any file involves the IO, then in that case the operating system will come into picture and make it ready. Simply you can say it activates, like operating system activates the hardware. You can make a note like this: to activate hardware. Who will be doing this one? Operating system will be doing this one. Alright, now coming to the next one is file system management. Now what is this file system management? File system management is nothing but, suppose if you want to perform some operations like opening a file, reading a file or writing a file, and once your work is done, you need to close your file. Now who will be taking care of all those things? The operating system will be taking care of that. Okay, creating, opening, okay, open, write, read, all these things. Who will be taking care of these things? Operating system. So these are called as file system manipulations, and the operating system will be taking care of doing these things whenever the user wants. Now coming to the communication. In some cases, one process want to communicate with another process, or one computer want to communicate with our computer, isn't it or not? In that case, who will be coming into picture? Operating system. So inter-process communication. Got it? Now if you want to have inter-process communication, then the operating system will be taking care of that one. We will be learning in detail about how this will be happening and all in our future classes. This is one type of service that will be provided by the operating system. Okay, what is that? Inter-process communication. It can be between process to process, it can be between computer to one computer to another computer, anything. Alright, now coming to the fifth type of OS service is error detection. Error detection is nothing but there may be possibility like the errors can occur. Now the operating system needs to be aware of possible errors. So if any error occurs, then it has to quickly take a remedy, like appropriate action regarding this, and ensure that correct and consistent computing occurs. So if in case of any error is detected, operating system has to take quick action. Okay. Next one is resource allocation. As we have already repeatedly discussing about this, like we'll have so many resources like CPU, memory and IO, and if any user or any application is requesting the resource, then the resource allocation will be done by the operating system only. Now the seventh one is accountability. Whenever a resource is allocated, because the operating system has to maintain an account of which resource is being under which control and how much time they have used, everything they have to maintain the accounts of that one, and that will be done by the operating system. This is also one type of service. Now coming to the protection and security. Protection and security is nothing but read and write permissions. Like we want to provide like multiple users and multiple process may be using multiple resources. Now in that case there may be a chance like security measures need to be taken care of. So operating system will be taking care of that one also. Okay. Now from outsiders also it will protect. Now how it will be coming to the Unix operating system, read permissions and write permissions, they are efficiently provided in the Unix operating system when compared to the Windows operating system. So who will be taking care of this protection security? OS only. So these are all the services that will be provided by the operating system. Executing the program, IO operations, file system manipulation like management, communication, error detection, resource allocation, accountability, protection and security. Right? So this is something about the introduction to our operating system. I hope you all are clear with the basic things. So in this lecture we learned about what actual operating system is. We have understood the definition and some examples of the operating system. We have understood what are all the components of the computer system, and we have seen what is the dual mode and timer mode of the operating system, how the operating system operates, and then we have concluded with the operating system services. Alright, so in the next class we'll come up with some new concepts. I hope this class is clear to you all. We'll all meet in our next lecture.